I had believed I was intimately familiar with every corner of this establishment. However, the rising tide of customer complaints, along with a nagging feeling that something was wrong with the way employees were being handled, pushed me to make a daring move. What I witnessed firsthand, disguised as a new hire, was appalling. The store's mismanagement and the ruthless exploitation of Lena, a pregnant barista working relentlessly. It was then that my purpose sharpened to uncover the truth, fire the offending manager, and establish a just workplace for all. I vividly remember the day I walked into the coffee shop with my fake light brown hair, those glasses, and the name tag that read Tim. The tense atmosphere hit me the moment I stepped inside. Customers were lined up, and the employees were running around like crazy. Then I noticed her, Lana, the barista, with the noticeable baby bump, working tirelessly faster than everyone else. "Where's the new guy?" a man in his 40s barked. He had a stiff posture and a grumpy face. I recognized him. "Daniel, the store manager, that's me." I raised my hand. He barely glanced at me and tossed a few words my way. "Aprons are in the back. Don't mess up the orders." No greeting, no introduction, just orders. I grabbed an apron and went to the counter. The pregnant barista, Lena Oakes, turned to me with a tired smile. "First day?" she asked quickly, stacking bulbs. "Yeah," I replied. "Any advice?" "Don't slow down," she said, her eyes darting toward Daniel. "And don't ask for breaks unless you want to get on his bad side." I frowned. Something was off here. All day long, I just observed Lena work nonstop, taking orders, handling the register, making drinks, never missing a beat. She was good, incredibly good. But I couldn't ignore her exhausted expression. Once an elderly woman fumbled with a handful of coins to pay for her coffee. Daniel snapped at Lena, telling her to refuse the payment. But Lena patiently took the coins, despite his grumbling. "She's a customer," she said firmly. I paused. Something wasn't right here. Then I overheard their conversation. Daniel hinted at cutting Lena's hours. I was stunned. He was taking advantage of her hard work and her difficult situation. The following days were a long series of disturbing sights. Lena arrived the earliest, left the latest, and worked tirelessly. Her growing baby bump was like a silent accusation of Daniel's cruelty. I couldn't take it anymore. One afternoon, Lena staggered and nearly collapsed. I rushed to support her, a wave of anger washing over me. "You need to rest," I said. "I'm fine." She brushed it off, but I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. Daniel appeared with his usual bossy tone. "Why are we behind?" Lena didn't look up. "We're short-staffed today." Daniel folded his arms. "Not my problem. Customers don't care about excuses." I lost my patience. "She's moving as fast as she can." Daniel barely acknowledged me. "If we can't keep up, I'll need to rethink the schedules." Then his eyes landed on Lena. "Maybe cut someone's shifts." I saw Lena's shoulders tense up. "I'll stay late if needed," she quickly offered. "I'll make up for it." Daniel nodded in satisfaction. "That's what I like to hear." I gritted my teeth. It was obvious what he was doing, using job security to control someone who couldn't afford to lose it. That wasn't leadership. It was manipulation. Throughout the day, I saw more and more signs of the strain on Lena. She barely sipped the water, never sat down, never slowed down. When the lunch rush finally ended, she sighed and leaned against the counter, rubbing her lower back. "You need a break," I said. She shook her head. "I'll be fine." I wouldn't let it go. "Lena, go sit down for 5 minutes." She hesitated, then glanced at the office. "Daniel won't like that." I followed her gaze. The manager was staring at his phone, oblivious to everything. "He won't notice." I said, "Go." Lena bit her lip and finally relented. She sank onto a stool in the back, closing her eyes briefly. I stepped in, handling drink orders to cover for her. Minutes later, Daniel reappeared, his eyes scanning the counter, then the back. "Where's Lena?" I met his gaze. "She's taking a quick break." Daniel's face darkened. "She doesn't take breaks during rushes." I kept my voice steady. "The rush is over." Daniel stepped closer. "Who do you think you are, telling my employees what to do?" I stood my ground. "I think I'm someone who doesn't want to see a pregnant woman collapse on the job." Daniel scoffed. "She knew what she signed up for." Something snapped inside me. I had seen enough Lena return before I could say anything else. She straightened her apron, forcing a neutral expression. "I'm ready to get back to work." Daniel gave me a pointed look, then turned to Lena. "Good, because I need you to close tonight." I expected her to protest, but no, she just nodded. "Okay." I frowned. You've been here since morning, Daniel smirked. She's a team player. Lena wouldn't meet my eyes. I clenched my fists. I wasn't just seeing a bad manager. I was seeing someone exploiting an employee who had no other options. I took a deep breath, trying to control my anger. I would handle this the right way. But Daniel had no idea his time was up. I sat in my car in the parking lot, staring at the store's front entrance. I had planned to wait until the end of the week before revealing myself, but after what I had seen, I couldn't let this go on any longer. Lena had worked a double shift without complaint, and Daniel had taken full advantage of her willingness to push through exhaustion. I'd spent years managing business operations, and I knew the difference between a dedicated employee and one who had no choice but to endure mistreatment. I stepped out of my car and walked inside, this time without my disguise. Daniel was standing behind the counter, casually leaning against the register, while one of the newer employees handled the morning rush alone. He glanced up and frowned, his eyes scanning me as if trying to place me. "Can I help you?" I didn't respond immediately. I walked past the line, glancing toward the espresso station. Lena was already there, preparing drinks with quiet efficiency. She hadn't noticed me yet. Then my attention returned to Daniel. "Yes, actually, I think we need to have a conversation." Daniel let out a short laugh. "Look, if you're here about a messed up order or something, take it up with—" I cut him off. "I'm Trevor Ellis, CEO of this company." The color drained from Daniel's face. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. I didn't wait for him to recover. "Let's talk in the back." Daniel hesitated, then reluctantly nodded, gesturing toward the office. I followed him inside and shut the door behind us. It was a cramped space cluttered with papers and half-empty coffee cups. "Sit down," I instructed. Daniel obeyed, his usual arrogance replaced with nervous energy. "Listen." I held up a hand. "I spent the last 2 days working here undercover. I saw everything." Daniel swallowed hard. "Sir, you overwork your staff, you ignore basic labor laws, and you treat one of your best employees like she's disposable." Daniel's hands gripped the edge of the desk. Lena agreed to the hours. My voice remained even but firm. She agreed because she had no choice. That's not leadership. That's manipulation. Daniel's jaw twitched. She never complained. "She didn't have to." I shot back. "It was obvious." "Us." Daniel leaned forward, his expression shifting to something more defensive. "You don't understand what it's like to run a store like this. We're short-staffed. I do what I have to." My patience thinned. "You do what's easiest for you, not what's right for your employees." Daniel exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "If I don't push them, this place falls apart." I studied him for a long moment. "No, it falls apart because you've created an environment where people don't want to stay. That's why you're short-staffed. That's why morale is non-existent." Daniel's silence spoke volumes. I continued, my voice steady. "You're done here. I'm terminating your employment, effective immediately." Daniel's eyes widened. "Wait." I didn't budge. "You're not fit to manage people. I won't let this store or any other be run this way." Daniel's shoulders slumped. "You're making a mistake." I met his gaze. "No, you did." Without another word, I opened the door and stepped out. Lena was still behind the counter, unaware of what had just happened. She turned as I approached her, her brow furrowing slightly. "Trevor Ellis," I said, offering my hand. "I own this company." Her eyes widened as she slowly reached out to shake my hand. "Wait, you're—" I nodded. "I was here undercover for the last 2 days." Lena's mouth parted slightly, then she glanced toward the office. "Daniel," I nodded, "he's gone." She took a slow breath, processing the weight of those words. Then I continued, my tone softer now. "I saw how hard you work, how much you carry. That ends today." Lena hesitated. I just do what needs to be done. And you shouldn't have to do it alone." I said, "You deserve better." For the first time, Lena didn't have a response. I glanced around the store. "We're making changes starting now." And with that, everything shifted. I wasted no time. I called in the district supervisor. Rachel, a woman who had been with the company for over 15 years. She arrived within the hour, walking through the doors with purpose, her gaze sweeping the store as if assessing the damage before I even spoke. Lena stood behind the counter, still processing the weight of what had happened. She hadn't said much since learning who I really was, but her exhaustion was more evident now that the adrenaline had worn off. I pulled Rachel aside, lowering my voice. We need a new manager here as soon as possible, someone who actually knows how to lead. Rachel nodded. I already have someone in mind. I'll make a few calls. I folded my arms, and the schedule needs fixing immediately. No more overloading a single employee just because they won't push back. Rachel's eyes shifted toward Lena. She's been carrying this place, hasn't she? I exhaled. More than anyone knew. Rachel didn't ask any more questions. She pulled out her phone and stepped away, already working on the transition. I turned back to the counter, watching as Lena continued making drinks. Her movements slower than before. I stepped behind the counter beside her, rolling up my sleeves. Lena blinked at me. You don't have to do that. I grabbed a cup and started pouring coffee. If I'm going to fix this, I need to understand the day-to-day firsthand. She hesitated before nodding. Then you should know the milk steamer is acting up. It overheats if you don't reset it every dozen drinks. I narrowed my eyes. How long has that been an issue? Months, she admitted. Daniel said there wasn't room in the budget for repairs. I pressed my lips together. That changes today. She didn't respond, but there was something in her expression that looked like relief. The next few hours moved quickly. Rachel worked on finding a new manager while I stayed behind the counter, helping wherever I could. Customers came and went, unaware that the man handing them their orders was the owner of the company mid-afternoon. Rachel approached with an update. I have someone who can step in temporarily until we finalize a permanent replacement. I nodded good and make sure we audit the payroll records. I want to know if anyone else has been pushed into excessive hours like Lena. Rachel made a note on her clipboard. I'll handle it. I turned back to Lena. You are done for the day, she blinked. I still have a few more hours on my shift. I shook my head. Not anymore. You've done more than enough. Lena hesitated, as if unsure whether she should argue. Then she exhaled and untied her apron, rubbing at her wrist where the strap had left a mark. Before she could leave, I spoke again. Starting next week, you're getting a raise, and if you need time off, you'll get it. She stared at me. I wasn't asking for special treatment. I met her gaze. It's not special treatment, it's fairness. You've given this company more than it ever gave you. That changes now. For the first time that day, the tension in her shoulders eased. Thank you. I watched as she left, knowing this wasn't just about fixing one store. It was about making sure something like this never happened again, anywhere in my company. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was truly leading. I sat in my office 2 days later, reviewing the latest reports from the store. The temporary manager, Bethany, had already made adjustments to the scheduling system and initiated the hiring process to address the staffing shortage. Rachel had confirmed that payroll discrepancies existed throughout several locations, and an internal audit was underway. Despite the progress, something still nagged at me. My phone buzzed and I glanced at the caller ID. Rachel, we found something, she said the moment I answered. It's about Daniel. I leaned forward. Go on. He was manipulating payroll records. Employees who worked extra hours weren't being properly compensated. Instead, their overtime was either logged incorrectly or not at all. Lena was one of the worst cases. She wasn't just overworked, she was underpaid for it. I exhaled slowly, my fingers tapping against the desk. How much does she owe? Rachel hesitated. Almost 3,000. My grip tightened on the phone. Send me the full breakdown and notify legal. I want to make sure we handle this properly. I already did, Rachel said. We're drafting letters to affected employees, ensuring they receive what they're owed. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Good work. I ended the call and stared at the screen in front of me. My frustration wasn't just with Daniel, it was with myself. I had trusted the wrong people to manage my stores and employees like Lena had paid the price for it. Pushing that thought aside, I grabbed my keys. When I arrived at the store, things already felt different. The energy was lighter. Employees moved with more ease and Bethany stood near the back, speaking with a new hire. I spotted Lena behind the counter focused on steaming milk for a latte. She seemed more rested than before, but there was still something guarded in her demeanor. I stepped forward, waiting until she noticed me. When she did, she straightened slightly, wiping her hands on a nearby towel. I didn't expect to see you here again, she said. I placed a folder on the counter. I have something for you. She hesitated before taking it, flipping it open. She scanned the document inside, her eyes flickered with confusion. Then something else shock. This is, her voice trailed off. Back pay. I said you weren't compensated properly for your hours. That's changing now. Lena stared at the number on the page. This is more than I expected. I leaned against the counter. It's what you earned. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then slowly she closed the folder and exhaled. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I replied. Just deposit it and use it for whatever you need. She looked at me, something unreadable in her expression. I never thought this would happen. I met her gaze. It should have never been a problem in the first place. Lena ran a hand through her hair, glancing around the store. Things already feel different with Bethany here. The schedule makes sense now. People aren't dreading their shifts anymore. I nodded. That's how it should have been all along. She studied me for a moment. Why did you come here undercover? I sighed, folding my arms, because I stopped trusting reports. I needed to see it for myself. Lena considered that, and now I know what I need to fix. She gave a small nod, then glanced at the folder again. This changes a lot for me. I didn't ask what she meant. That wasn't my business, but I was glad she had it. After a pause, Lena looked back at me. Thank you, I shook my head. Don't thank me. Just don't let anyone take advantage of you again. Lena gave a faint smile. I won't. I nodded once before turning away. As I stepped back outside, I took a deep breath. There was still plenty of work to do, but for the first time in a while, I felt like I was truly leading my company in the right direction.